G'day there, ladies and gents of the internet. I am the Braveheart Aussie and welcome to a journey in world building. This is our third and final episode of our setting deep dive mini-series into the moon world of Koton. So far, we've explored the technical attributes and key aspects of the world, as well as the economy and the society before and after the war with the hegemony and the commencement of what is known as the Forever Siege. Today we're going to be exploring the terrors of the world, and obviously this focuses primarily on that of the hegemony war and the devastating consequences of the conflict and incidences on the planet. However, there are also some secondary terrors of note, so let's cover off on those quickly before we get to the war itself. The first of the smaller terrors is that of lightning strikes. As was highlighted during the key facts and technical attributes episode, the planet has a disproportionately high share of lightning strikes. While these are typically associated with major thunderstorms and adverse weather events, even basic cloud cover on the planet can be sufficient to generate violent electrical discharges. This reflects the highly energized nature of the planet's atmosphere due to its thick density, as well as the impact of the orbiting gas giant's own electromagnetic field. These lightning strikes have the potential to cause injury and destruction to buildings and people, either caught out in the open or when buildings are not properly earthed. While this issue is no longer as significant for the residents of Koton due to their principally subterranean residential approach during the Forever Siege, it had an impact in the past in terms of infrastructure and built form of different cities, as well as acted as a major deterrent and detractor away from ground forces from the hegemony during the early ill-fated attempts at ground-based assaults. The second minor terror is that of the subterranean bunker-like lifestyle and accommodation of the remaining residents of the world. Koton residents have no choice but to live almost entirely underground in purpose-built reinforced bunkers. Each bunker can host up to 100,000 people and are spread across the planet to minimize concentration. Life within the bunkers is highly depressed, with only basic atmosphere, sanitation and water supplies that are needed to maintain the lives of residents provided. The Forever Siege, combined with the lack of safe surface habitation, means that access to much needed supplies is almost completely constrained, bar the occasional blockade runner free flaggers engaged by members of Koton's expat community. Crime within the bunkers is dealt with harshly, even after 80 years of the war, and internal societal governance structures within the bunkers remain broadly intact. The deprivation and harshness of bunker life means the overall life expectancy of the population is significantly lower than it was before the commencement of the hegemony war, though interestingly still remains higher than many planets and settlements throughout the diaspora, highlighting the extent to which the Republic was an ultra-sophisticated, advanced economy and society prior to the war. So now that we've covered off on that, let's talk about the impact of the war itself as a terror on the planet of Koton at the time of the Dark Diaspora. As was highlighted during last week's lore episode, direct assaults on the planet by hegemony forces that have secured the outer system are frequent but albeit somewhat sporadic due to the now significant orbital defense network around the moon. This limits ongoing offenses to carrier pod-based atmospheric bombing raids, as well as tactics including ICD dumping. This involves a ship entering the atmosphere and then offloading up to 50 different ICD units into the atmosphere, which then go and secure different targets around the planet. Despite the impact of these raids that can be quite significant and result in major loss of life and surface-based emplacements of the Republic forces, they are generally ineffective when it comes to impacting the day-to-day life of the remaining bunker-based residents. More substantial is the impact of previous battles on the world. Approximately 40 years before the time of the diaspora, the hegemony launched a series of AG Megabomb planet busters, similar to those used by the Republic on Talokan Station during the onset of the war. The assault was one of the most deadly in the war, as the hegemony sought to break the siege and devastate the remaining resistance. While bombing and orbital assaults were widespread, the use of planet busters on the then capital city of Thran was particularly devastating. While the capital, spread across 3 elevated plateaus on the world, was already a shadow of its former glory with only 1.5% of its original population, the use of 15 AG planet busters completely annihilated the remnants of the city. The blast was so great that the plateaus themselves cracked and warped, and the maelstrom of anti-gravity fields caused a debris ranging from small pieces of metal to entire sectors of the city to break off the ground and float into the air. Even now, 40 years later, most of the floating islands of destruction created by the blast remain airborne and are now the focus of scavenger activities by Republican forces, as well as one of the few places on the planet where hegemony and Republican soldiers engage in regular ground combat, often jumping between these floating islands. This region on Koton is known simply as the Malestrom, and it's where drastic and unpredictable gravity anomalies render all those who enter the area in grave danger. And it is this strange amalgam of the Hallelujah Mountains of Avatar with some devastated urban warzone hellscape here on Earth that will be the setting of our final lore episode of Koton. But that won't actually be until next week. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you go and subscribe to the channel, drop a like and leave a comment on this video. I'll be posting a poll next week so we can have a look and vote on our next setting, and then I'll be giving it a week's break before we jump into the first setting deep dive video. I'll also be looking at potentially doing another faction video, this time looking specifically at the expatriate community of the Koton Republic and their role as a source of funding and support for the resistance on the planet. But that is it for today. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and may the journey continue.